Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, dual compassionate, dual merciful. We today start chapter 4 of the Fusus al-Hikam, in which Ibn Arabi is going to be talking about what he calls Hikmat al-Quddusiyya, that is a divine wisdom in the essence of Idris, the prophet, Enoch in English. In this chapter, Ibn Arabi does what is called ta'wil, that is esoteric interpretation of the Quran. He dwells on several verses we will see shortly, and he examines the meaning of the Arabic word ʿuluww, meaning eminence with an E, not to be confused with imminence, interpretation. Eminence means basically highness, but we will talk about that. So here, because the Quran refers to Enoch with that adjective, with the word eminent, Ibn Arabi is going to offer a very unique interpretation, and he's going to be examining that word in relation to the essence and the non-essential beings. According to Islamic tradition, Idris or Enoch was a prophet, and his name appears on multiple occasions in the Quran. I have brought those verses. In chapter 19, verses 56 to 57, we have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِدْرِيسَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا وَرَفَعْنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا. That word Ali is basically the noun form of ʿuluww, but we will get to that. The translation of the Quranic verses is this. And remember Idris in the book, verily he was truthful, a prophet, and we raised him to a high place. See, this is translation has high place for Ali, the noun form of ʿuluww, eminent. Or we could say we raised him to an eminent place. Then we come to chapter 21, verse 85, and we have وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِدْرِيسَ وَذَا الْكِفْلِ كُلُّ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And remember Ismail, Idris, and Dhul Kifl, each was among the patient. So Ibn Arabi is going to be examining these two instances, basically 3 verses, and he's going to be doing his own famous interpretation. As per tradition, Idris was taken to the skies, and Ibn Arabi associates his place with the sun, the planet. We're going to see what that means. The term ʿuluww, eminent, is an attribute, a divine attribute, and its noun form is Ali. For example, in the Quran we have فَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ. ʿuluww means eminent, and Ali could be translated as the high, the eminent, one who occupies a high status, a high rank. And if you paid attention to the first instance of the Quranic verse, the Quranic passage we examined, God refers to Enoch's status and position with the adjective ʿuluww. And Ibn Arabi starts his careful examination and sets off to shed light on this word in relation to Enoch and the word eminent, and in relation to the divine essence. How does the same word relate to both the essence and a created being? He's going to be examining. In his examination, Ibn Arabi groups the word ʿuluww into essential eminence and non-essential eminence. Essential eminence is that absolute eminence that is restricted to the divine essence alone. And the non-essential eminence is the relative one that is related to, and he uses it in relation to, the created beings. Then taking a closer look at the second category, he categorizes the relative eminence into an eminence in relation to place, whether something is high or not, and eminence in relation to status. Taking a closer look at the relative eminence, Ibn Arabi categorizes it into two. Eminence also could be translated as elevation. I mean, ʿuluww, eminence, elevation, highness. So elevation in relation to place, that is the first category for Ibn Arabi, and elevation in relation to status. The first one is apparently physical. For example, the highness, the elevation of a building in relation to, well, a small tree. But the second one relates to status. So when Ibn Arabi says that the position of Enoch is the sun, he has in mind the physical. Now, what does it mean to say that God is elevated or eminent? Or as Ibn Arabi himself asks in this chapter, elevated, more elevated than whom or what? Where only he exists. He then asks, where did God take this eminence where only he exists? Ibn Arabi clarifies that when we say God is elevated and he's eminent, we do not mean it in a dual sense, that there is a reality and then there is God, and God is higher than that reality. Rather, that category is reserved, like I said at the beginning, for the created beings. God's eminence is essential. We have from Ibn Arabi in the previous chapters that God is the single essence, absolute existence, from whom different manifestations appear as different beings in the world. And the multiplicity of beings relate to the relationality of divine names, the plurality of divine names. A multiplicity that does not harm the divine essence's oneness in the ahadiyya stage. Ibn Arabi writes, he, God, is the eminent by virtue of his essence, not by virtue of any relationship. From this point of view, there is no relative eminence in this word. You are not you, says Ibn Arabi, confusing us as he usually does. To better understand this text that I just quoted, one needs to have a good grasp of the entire chapter. In the first half of the chapter, Ibn Arabi assigns essential elevation or eminence to God's essence and the non-essential one to the created beings. But in the second half of the chapter, he reverses that. And he does that with the mentality and for the reason that the contingent beings, the created beings, are basically the other side of the divine essence. The essence is necessary. The contingent beings draw their existence a moment by moment existence, not just the first act. From the essence, they depend on the essence. They are the manifestations of the essence. So it is in this self-disclosure framework aspect that Ibn Arabi reverses that assertion. Relative eminence depends on the multiplicity of existent beings, and this multiplicity depends on the multiplicity of the divine names, and the divine names are forms of the divine essence, manifestations of the divine essence. So although those names are multiple and there is distinction between each, outwardly, essentially, and in reality they are the same, they share the same essence. Therefore, for Ibn Arabi, the diverse phenomena in the world, being the relative forms of God, the divine essence, are same and different. Same in essence, different in form and appearance. And it is for Ibn Arabi, for this same difference framework, that we say that he is not he and you are not you. Later in the chapter, Ibn Arabi builds on al-Kharraz's saying. Al-Kharraz was a famous Sufi, that it is in the virtue of the unity of the opposites that one can know Allah. This is the text. He is the essence, ayn, of manifest things, and the essence of the hidden things when they are manifest. Only he sees himself and nothing is hidden from him. He is both manifest and hidden by virtue of his essence. He, says Ibn Arabi, Abu Sa'id al-Kharraz, and other created beings are called in this manner of combination of the manifest and the hidden. The hidden says no when the manifest says I am the manifest. And when the hidden says I am the hidden, the manifest says no. This situation refers to each opposite, which negates the other, while the speaker and the listener are one and the same. The essence of the hidden and the manifest are the same. Multiplicity is in the theophanic realm, in the manifestational realm, in the world, not in the essence. The essence keeps its absolute oneness. To make clear how the one essence can have different aspects, one negating the other, Ibn Arabi gives the example of number 1. The number appears only through that which is countable, ma'dud. The countable can be either absent or existent. A thing may be absent with respect to the senses, but existent with respect to the intellect. In sum, there must be a number and that which is countable, just as there must be one which creates the number, and number is increased by it. Each grade of number is a single reality. To clarify, Ibn Arabi is saying that all numbers and the countable depend on the number 1 and are created by it, be it by addition, division, or otherwise. Each number is a combination of ones. Despite this combination, each is a unique reality, and each is distinct from other numbers. So one can have different faces despite being one. Therefore, owing to its essence, negating the reality of a number is the same as affirming it. Saying that 2 is not 1 relates to its combination aspect, its form, but in the essence that 2 goes back to 1. In the same way that the numbers' negation is their very affirmation, according to Ibn Arabi. The transcendental real is the same as the immanent with I, immanent created thing, even though the created differs from the creator, he emphasizes. The multiplicity in the world relates to the multiplicity of the names. Each is one face appearing in different mirrors. Ibn Arabi says that even the essences of each individual is relative. It is the essence, the divine essence, that confers to each being their relative essence and reality. So it is in this sense, says Ibn Arabi, that the transcendental essence is the same as the immanent. And it is in this sense that he says the created is like the creator, but the created is not like the creator. To clarify the unity despite multiplicity, Ibn Arabi gives the example of the Quranic passages related to Adam and Abraham, who wanted to sacrifice Ismail. Now, in chapter 37, verses 102 to 107, Abraham says to his son Ismail, "O my son, I see while dreaming that I am to sacrifice you. So consider, what do you see?" He, Ismail, replies, "O my father, do as you are commanded." But when they had submitted and Abraham had laid him, Ismail, upon his forehead, we called unto him, "O Abraham, thou hast been true to the vision. Truly this was a manifest trial. Then we ransomed him with a great sacrifice." Here, doing ta'wil, that interpretation, esoteric interpretation, Ibn Arabi says something very, very unique. He says, Abraham saw in his dream that he is sacrificing his son. However, the son is identical to his father. Thus, Abraham saw that he would sacrifice only himself. And when God ransomed him with a sacrifice, that which had appeared to him as a human, that is, his son in his dream, in actuality appeared as a ram. By all this, Ibn Arabi indicates that despite the different forms, father, son, ram, their essence is one. which is why by sacrificing the ram, Abraham was praised for passing the test and actualizing his dream. He did sacrifice himself. Next, to clarify multiplicity despite unity and take it to the spiritual level, Ibn Arabi turns his attention to the Quranic passage concerning Adam. Chapter 4, verse 1 says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَّفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. O mankind, reverence your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and from it created its mate, and from the two has spread abroad a multitude of men and women. All Quranic commentators, including Ibn Arabi, agree that by the single soul in this verse is meant Adam, that is, Adam's soul. Now, Ibn Arabi asserts, taking that God created from Adam his mate, he, Adam, married only himself. Hence, from Adam came forth his mate and child. However, despite the fact that they are three quantitatively, they are one in essence. Further in the chapter, to clarify this multiplicity, this unity despite multiplicity, Ibn Arabi wants to turn our attention to the nature. He says, nature is a place in which there is, it's a platform, an arena in which there is death and birth, in which there is change. But despite all these changes, despite all these come and go, the nature is one. Its unity is not affected by all this multiplicity. What joins them, says Ibn Arabi, is nature. Nay, it is natural essence. Thus the world of nature can be seen as many forms in one mirror, one single form in many mirrors. Therefore, happenings in the world are different and the same. Thus is the case with the creator and the created. They are different and they are the same. Different in form, same in essence. For Ibn Arabi, the essential eminence or ʿuluww belongs to he who has absolute perfection. And absolute perfection is one that contains all the relationships, be them existent or non-existent, admirable or blamable. This perfection is restricted only to the name Allah. Ibn Arabi there adds, quote, they are either God's manifestations or a form in a manifestation. If they are manifestations, there necessarily exists a priority among them. And if it is a form in a manifestation, then this form is the essential perfection because it is the essence of what is manifest in a certain entity. That which pertains to the name Allah pertains to this form. We do not say that the names are He, nor are they other than He. To clarify this passage, Ibn Arabi says, every divine name is designated by all the divine names and depicted by them. That is because every name indicates both the essence and the unique aspect towards which it is directed. Therefore, looking from essential aspect, each name contains all other names, and the name and the named are the same. However, from the aspect of unique meaning that each name is directed towards, each one is different from all others, and thus name and named are different. Ibn Arabi concludes this chapter by saying that if you understood what we have said of the word ʿuluww, you will understand that the essence's eminence is neither of place nor of status, but of his essence. And together with this, he clarifies different manifestations, be them in the spiritual world or in the material world. Despite their multiplicity, the divine essence's oneness is not harmed. With this explanation, we come to the end of the first tour, but it's not going to be the last one because there will be more unpacking here. I gave you an overview. I gave you more than an overview, but still there are some details that I will be examining in the next video. I want you to please go through the text if you have not already. Read the text, try to make sense of it with the explanations I gave. We will be adding more subtleties to it. Thank you for watching. May divine light light your heart and elevate you to a high status.